It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who have taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful.
In this video, we're about to reveal a royal secret so shocking that it made Kate Middleton break down in tears. What was hidden in that mysterious DNA report? And why did Diana leave behind clues that only Kate could find? Stick around, because what you're about to discover will leave you speechless. Before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, because we bring you the most incredible royal stories you won't find anywhere else. Now, let's get into this unbelievable revelation. One peaceful morning, a plain white envelope showed up at the palace gates. Kate picked it up from her mailbox, thinking it was just another regular letter. But this envelope felt different. It was heavier than usual, sealed with thick wax that had no royal symbol stamped on it. The handwriting on the front looked rushed and unusual, not like the formal writing she usually saw on palace letters. Kate felt something strange in her chest as she held it. She almost put it aside, thinking someone sent it to the wrong address, but something made her open it anyway. Inside, there was just one sheet of paper. At the very top, in big bold letters, it said, "Confidential DNA report from a laboratory she had never heard of." Kate's heart stopped beating for a second. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her eyes moved quickly down the page, reading words that felt like ice water splashing on her face. The report showed names she knew very well, names she never thought she'd see together on the same paper. Her mind started racing, trying to understand what this all meant. The DNA test was comparing Princess Diana with another name, someone Kate barely remembered, but would never forget after this moment. Then she saw the final conclusion, written in clear, simple words that confirmed rumors people had only whispered about for years. Kate's breath got stuck in her throat. Her hands started shaking so badly that the paper almost fell from her fingers. She read the words again and again, hoping she was wrong, hoping the result would somehow change. But it stayed the same. This wasn't just a regular document. This was like a ticking bomb that could destroy everything the royal family had built. Kate stumbled backward and pressed the report against her chest. Her eyes darted around the room, filled with panic. Through the door, she could hear her children laughing and playing in the hallways, completely unaware of the storm building inside their mother's heart. As she stood there frozen, old memories came flooding back. She remembered quiet conversations during dinner, strange looks from Charles that she never understood. Things she had ignored before suddenly made perfect sense now. For months, maybe even years, people had been whispering about a hidden secret. They talked about a child who had Diana's blood, but not her name. Kate had always thought it was just mean gossip, cruel rumors spread by jealous people. But now, holding this shaking paper in her trembling hands, she had proof that the perfect royal family was hiding something dark and terrible. The timing couldn't have been worse. Kate was already having arguments with Charles about her royal duties, and their relationship was already strained. But now she wondered if he had known this secret all along. Was this why he tried so hard to control what she did and said? Was this why he wanted to keep her quiet and obedient? The truth she just discovered was powerful enough to bring down the entire monarchy. And now she finally understood why so many people had worked day and night to keep it buried. Kate collapsed into the nearest chair. Her eyes stayed fixed on those terrible words on the paper. Her cheeks became wet with tears before she even realized she was crying. Soft sobs echoed through the quiet room. She didn't know what to do next, who she could trust, or how to move forward from this moment. But one thing was absolutely clear. She could never unsee what she had just read. But what made Kate realize that Diana had left this secret specifically for her to find? And what clues did Diana leave behind? Suddenly, Diana's warning came rushing back to Kate's mind with terrifying clarity. Before Diana died, she had left behind mysterious words and messages, not just for her sons William and Harry, but also for the woman who would someday become queen. Kate had read those words years ago and thought they were just sad, emotional writings. But now they carried a frightening new meaning. Diana had written her deepest fears in her personal diary, scribbling quickly and frantically as if she was running out of time, as if the palace walls were closing in around her. Kate remembered seeing small parts of those diary entries once when they were displayed at Althorp, Diana's family home. Back then, she had brushed them off as poetic sadness, just a grieving princess expressing her feelings. But now, holding this DNA report in her hands, those same words hit her completely differently. Diana had written, "One day she will know. When she is strong enough, she will see why I could never say it out loud. Kate's hands shook even harder as more memories came rushing back to her. Diana had sent letters to a close friend, someone Kate barely knew. In those letters, Diana talked about a shocking discovery hidden deep within her marriage. She wrote about secrets that absolutely had to remain hidden no matter what. Letters that people once dismissed as paranoid ramblings now stood as proof that the royal family would stop at nothing to protect their image, even if it meant burying the truth forever. Diana hadn't described them simply as a family. She called them a machine, cold, calculating, and merciless. This realization made Kate shiver with fear. Even her early conversations with Charles now seemed threatening in a new way. She remembered him once saying casually that certain parts of Diana's life were better left buried and forgotten. At the time, his tone had been so sharp and harsh that Kate didn't dare ask him more questions. Now she could hear it clearly for what it truly was. Not grief for Diana, but disgust. And beneath it all was a warning to stay away. The weight of knowing this truth felt crushing. And then there was that connection nobody talked about openly, something everyone carefully avoided mentioning. Diana's time away from the palace walls, her secret meetings, the shadow of a man never named but always lurking in her stories. What once seemed like harmless gossip now felt like a prophecy coming true. Images of Diana's struggles and her very public pain flooded into Kate's thoughts. It no longer felt like just the tragic history of a sad princess. It was a coded survival message, instructions left behind for someone brave enough to follow. Kate remembered those haunting photographs of Diana staring straight into the camera, her eyes showing both defiance and fear at the same time. Finally, Kate understood. Those looks had always been meant for someone specific. They were meant for her. The realization hit Kate like a lightning bolt. Diana hadn't just left behind sadness and rebellion. She had carved out a path, a trail made of whispers, hidden pages, and meaningful glances, so that when the right moment came, Kate would find the courage to walk that same path. Now standing before that invisible road, Kate felt its weight pressing down on her chest like a heavy crown made of lead. With new determination burning inside her, Kate decided to search through Diana's hidden legacy and uncover the full truth. But what she found only made the mystery deeper and more dangerous. Could Kate handle what was waiting for her in Diana's secret archive? Deep beneath the quiet hallways of Diana's family estate called Althorp, there was a secret archive room protected by dust and filled with truths nobody dared to approach. Kate traveled there, pretending she just needed a quiet retreat, claiming she wanted solitude and time to reflect. A much-needed escape from London's watching eyes. William and all the palace staff believed her story, but Kate knew the real truth. She had come to face the ghosts of the past and uncover what Diana had left behind. The huge estate was vast and silent, and it seemed to hold its breath as she walked through the doors. Every room whispered Diana's name, speaking of beauty destroyed by betrayal and secrets that were never spoken out loud. Within that heavy silence, Kate felt herself being pulled toward the next piece of the puzzle she could no longer ignore. After a quiet conversation with one of the older housekeepers, a woman who had worked for the Spencer family for decades, Kate was led to a hidden part of the estate that very few people had ever seen. Down a long, narrow hallway stood a small door, with a brass handle that had become dull with age. Its hinges were stiff from years of nobody using it. The old woman stopped at the doorknob and gave Kate a silent warning with her eyes before stepping away and leaving her alone. Kate stood there for a moment, then reached out and opened the door. A rush of cold air swept past her face, as if the room itself was breathing out decades of hidden truths that had been trapped inside. The small chamber was packed with history. Wooden shelves lined every wall, and boxes were stacked in careful, neat order. At first glance, everything looked ordinary and boring. There were old portraits covered in dust, ancient record books, and fancy stationery stamped with the Spencer family crest. But then, in the far corner of the room, Kate saw them. 3 special boxes sitting apart from everything else, tied with faded ribbons, and marked in Diana's unmistakable handwriting with the words, "For Catherine, when the time is right." Kate's heart started pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She lifted the lid of the first box with trembling fingers. Inside were letters, written quickly and messily, confessional in tone. Diana's voice poured out through the ink on those pages, desperate to preserve her truth before someone could take it away from her forever. Page after page revealed secret meetings Diana had attended, hushed conversations she'd had in hiding, and private investigations Diana had conducted into her own mysterious life. Among the letters were photographs, old and faded, but absolutely undeniable. The photos showed Diana standing with a man Kate didn't recognize. His face was striking and looked almost royal, and yet strangely familiar in a way that made Kate's skin crawl. Beneath the letters and photos, Kate found something that made her breath freeze in her lungs. A sealed envelope marked only with one word: DNA. Inside were test results hinting that Diana herself had started unraveling this exact same mystery that was now consuming her daughter-in-law. The implications were absolutely devastating. Diana hadn't just suspected something was wrong. She had known the truth. Kate's hands trembled as she traced her finger over the man's face in the photograph. Something about his eyes sent a cold chill running through her entire body. He wasn't part of the royal family, yet his claim to it hung there in silence, undeniable. Slowly and cruelly, Kate realized she wasn't simply following Diana's old trail. She was walking straight into a storm that Diana had foreseen and predicted long ago. As Kate compared the mysterious photographs to official royal records she had brought with her, the terrifying truth began to unfold, more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. But who was this mysterious man? And why did he look so hauntingly familiar? His name was only whispered about in the darkest corners of gossip and rumor. He was a man with Diana's distinctive eyes and a claim to the royal crown that nobody wanted to acknowledge or talk about. Kate stared at the evidence spread out in her hands, her heart hammering against her ribs as impossible pieces began falling into place. The man who appeared again and again in Diana's personal letters and private photographs, always standing near her, always at the edge of her story, now stood at the very center of a secret too dangerous to speak out loud. His place in Diana's life was no longer just a matter of rumor and speculation. It was carved into history in Diana's own handwriting. Each page of Diana's letters whispered about secret encounters and stolen hours hidden carefully away from the palace's constantly watching eyes. She had known this man before. That much was crystal clear, but the tone in her writing revealed something much deeper than what Kate had expected. Not just simple friendship, not just rebellion against the royal family, but an intimacy that was deliberate, meaningful, and impossible to dismiss or ignore. The resemblance between this man and someone Kate knew was deeply unsettling. She could see it clearly in the strong line of his jaw, in the depth and intensity of his eyes, in the dark, messy hair that framed a face she felt she had seen somewhere before. It looked like Harry's face, or rather an older, more weathered reflection of it, marked and shadowed by years of living in exile and hiding. The resemblance was so uncanny and eerie that it made Kate shudder with discomfort. And it was this striking resemblance that gave life to the most poisonous and dangerous rumors of all. Was this mysterious man more than just Diana's confidant and friend? Could he possibly be the hidden reason behind Harry's quiet anger and frustration? Could he explain Harry's restless sense of never truly belonging to the royal family? The deeper Kate searched into the mystery, the stranger and more confusing everything became. She found tiny traces of a birth recorded somewhere, but all the official records had been scrubbed clean and erased. The royal archives held only small fragments of information, with names crossed out in thick ink, dates altered and changed, and entire files sealed shut with official stamps. Whole chapters of this man's life had been completely erased from history, as if someone had worked tirelessly day and night to remove him from all records, leaving behind only whispers floating in the darkness. Driven by growing desperation and determination, Kate tracked down one of Diana's oldest and most trusted confidants, an elderly woman who had kept the past buried and secret for decades. At first, the woman refused to speak at all. Her silence was heavy, thick, and absolutely unyielding, like a stone wall Kate couldn't break through. But when Kate carefully laid one of the photographs down on the table in front of her, the silence finally broke like shattered glass. In a trembling, emotional voice, the old woman confirmed what the palace had denied and rejected for so many years. The man in the picture was absolutely real, not just a rumor or fantasy. His life represented the final chapter of Diana's defiance and rebellion against the royal system. Her rebellion was carved in flesh and blood, a living, breathing person. He wasn't just a faded memory from the past. He was alive right now, and he carried the key to Diana's last and most powerful act. An act that was capable of shaking the entire monarchy down to its very core and foundation. Each new revelation tilted Kate's world further and further into complete chaos. Fear pressed in on her from all sides, but she couldn't stop her search now. She had come too far. Her dangerous path led her next to confront the one man she least expected to stand against her. Would Charles finally admit the truth he'd been hiding all these years? Behind Charles's calm and composed mask was someone who had always known this terrible secret, and who had fought fiercely to bury the truth deep underground. Kate confronted him with fire burning in her veins and solid evidence clutched tightly in her hands. She found him sitting in his private office in complete silence, his fingers folded together, as though he had been rehearsing excuses and explanations in his mind. His calm expression didn't break at first. He barely even glanced at the documents Kate placed in front of him, quickly dismissing them as false and fake, accusing Kate of being misled by vicious gossip and Diana's lingering ghosts. But Kate absolutely refused to back down or yield. When she started reading Diana's actual words out loud, reciting the names, the specific dates, and details of the secret meetings, Charles's careful mask finally cracked and fell apart. His heavy sigh filled the room, and his admission became inevitable. Yes, the mysterious man truly existed. Yes, he had been part of Diana's life in ways the world was never, ever meant to discover or know about. What shocked Kate the most wasn't the confession itself. What truly shook her to the core was the revelation that Charles had always known about this secret from the very beginning. In a tired, weary tone, he spoke about a decades-old pact and agreement. A secret deal forged and made right after Diana's rebellion, specifically designed to erase this man completely from history and public record. Official records were destroyed and burned. Stories were silenced and suppressed. Rumors were smothered and crushed. All done in the sacred name of protecting the crown and preserving the royal institution. It was necessary to preserve the monarchy, Charles said flatly and emotionlessly, as if those cold words could somehow absolve him of all guilt and responsibility. But to Kate, it wasn't preservation. It was pure betrayal of the worst kind. Her voice rose with fury and righteous anger as she accused him directly of sacrificing Diana for the throne, of letting her suffer and eventually die beneath a truth he could have revealed at any time, but deliberately chose to bury instead. The accusations flew out sharp and fast, each word cutting like a blade of anger, disbelief, and disgust. Charles stood firm and unmoved, coldly insisting that Diana's suffering had been the necessary price of maintaining the monarchy, arguing that revealing the truth would have shattered and destroyed everything the royal family stood for. In that single moment, something deep inside Kate cracked and broke forever. Years and years of loyalty and obedient silence, years of dutifully playing her assigned role for the palace, suddenly felt completely hollow and meaningless. She saw herself reflected clearly in Diana's terrible struggle and realized with horror that she too had become just another cog in the same heartless machine that destroyed truth for the sake of duty and tradition. This realization hollowed her out completely, leaving her feeling furious not only at Charles, but also at herself for playing along for so long. The crushing weight of truth pressed down on her shoulders like an unbearable burden. But the final and most devastating blow was yet to come from the past itself. What would happen when Kate showed William the DNA results and forced the future king to face the impossible truth? Kate waited until the children were fast asleep in their beds. The corridor outside was completely silent. Her hands were trembling and shaking as she carefully laid the papers out on the table in front of William. At first, William just glanced casually at them, expecting to see some minor family disagreement or small quarrel. But as his eyebrows pulled together in confusion, and his eyes traced the lines of text, Kate watched the exact moment the truth hit him hard. It was a truth that left him facing an impossible choice between love for his family and duty to the crown. As his eyes scanned over the names, the dates, and the damning conclusions written so plainly and clearly before him, his entire body went stiff and rigid. The silence between them grew thicker and heavier, pressing down until it became almost unbearable and suffocating. Finally, he looked up at Kate, and his facial expression alone told her that he already knew something about this. Deep down, he had suspected. William tried desperately to push back against it, whispering weakly that it couldn't possibly be true. That their family had already endured enough pain and suffering, that such terrible things didn't happen anymore in modern times. But the heavy weight of his own childhood memories betrayed him, and his words rang hollow. Kate watched with breaking heart as his disbelief slowly crumbled and dissolved into quiet, complete devastation. The color drained entirely from William's face as his mother's whispered confessions from years ago came rushing back into his mind. He remembered her tears, her streaked makeup, her defiant anger, her desperate cries begging someone, anyone, to believe her words. Along with those painful memories came something far darker and more powerful. Rage. Burning rage at a father who had stood by in cowardly silence while Diana suffered. Rage at the cold monarchy that had demanded and required her suffering for its own survival and continuation. For the very first time in his life, William allowed himself to truly wonder whether everything he had ever believed about his family was nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion and lie. His troubled thoughts turned to Harry, the brother he loved deeply but had never fully understood or connected with. Then another realization struck William with brutal, crushing clarity. If what these DNA results revealed was actually true, then Harry's entire life, his whole identity, his place in the family structure, even his deep anguish and pain, had all been built on top of a massive deception that nobody had ever dared to name or acknowledge. William lowered his head into his hands, feeling torn apart between two completely different futures stretching out before him. One future where he buried the truth deep and continued serving the crown exactly as expected. And another future where he risked absolutely everything. His royal title, his family relationships, even the fragile threads barely holding the monarchy together. All to expose what Diana had so desperately tried to reveal to the world. The weight of making that choice felt completely unbearable and impossible. Kate reached across and took his hand gently. Her own voice was breaking with emotion as she pleaded with him to truly see what was at stake here. She reminded him of Diana's incredible courage, of the careful trail of clues she had left behind, specifically for them to follow, of the endless pain she had endured in complete silence, because nobody had stood beside her or supported her. "Don't let her final secret die buried with you," Kate whispered urgently. "Don't let her suffer in vain for nothing." Her words lingered in the air, like a sacred vow that neither of them could possibly ignore. William's eyes filled with glistening tears, caught between the innocent boy who had once promised his mother protection, and the grown man now burdened with the responsibility of an entire kingdom resting on his shoulders. But before William could make his agonizing choice, an unexpected ally suddenly forced Kate into a dangerous spotlight she had never wanted or sought. What was Camilla planning? And how would she use this secret against Kate? While Kate and William wrestled privately with grief and confusion, Camilla was already preparing her calculated move in the shadows. The whispers and rumors reached her sensitive ears, even before their heated argument behind closed doors had finished. In a palace built entirely on silence, secrets, and careful control, nothing ever stayed hidden for very long. Camilla, who had personally endured decades of harsh judgment, manipulation, and public scorn, had absolutely no intention of letting this explosive revelation destroy what she had fought so hard to claim and achieve. Where others hesitated and faltered, she moved forward with the calm precision and confidence of someone who understood the dangerous stakes better than anyone else. Kate never saw her coming. Camilla entered Kate's private sitting room completely unannounced, her facial expression appearing serene and peaceful, but her eyes gleaming with something much darker and more threatening underneath. With quiet composure and fake warmth, she congratulated Kate on her discovery, as if uncovering a terrible secret was somehow a grim achievement to celebrate. Camilla lowered herself gracefully into a chair sitting opposite Kate and began speaking in a tone that was deceptively warm, almost motherly and caring. But Kate wasn't fooled. Camilla calmly admitted that she had known about Diana's secret for years. She explained that she and Diana had actually pieced it together long ago, and then with chilling ease and coldness, Camilla explained exactly how she had turned that dangerous knowledge into personal power. By remaining strategically silent when it mattered most, she had successfully secured her own permanent place in the monarchy. Kate could barely process or understand what she was hearing. Every single word dripped with barely concealed menace and threat, a sharp reminder of just how far Camilla had gone to hold on to power and the crown. Then came the direct threat, delivered with understated cruelty. If Kate dared to speak publicly about this secret, she wouldn't only destroy the monarchy itself, but she would destroy herself and her own life as well. Camilla leaned in closer, her voice staying softer yet heavy with clear intent and warning, suggesting that damaging stories about Kate's own family, her past, and even her marriage to William might mysteriously find their way to the hungry press. The air in the room grew tight and tense, the pressure nearly unbearable. Kate's anger rose like a fire inside her, though she kept her voice measured and controlled. She reminded Camilla firmly that silence had doomed Diana to suffering and death, that speaking the truth was the only path forward no matter what the cost might be. But Camilla only smiled in response, a cold smile completely empty of any warmth or humanity, and delivered her final warning. If Kate revealed this secret to the world, she would not only topple the ancient monarchy, but she would bring about her own complete ruin and destruction as well. That night, Kate lay wide awake in her bed, her mind swirling like a violent storm of fury and paralyzing fear. Camilla's threatening words echoed endlessly in her head, trying to poison her resolve and courage, but they couldn't extinguish it entirely. Kate knew deep in her heart that she couldn't let it end like this. She could no longer hide safely behind polite courtesy and obedient silence, while Diana's precious memory was buried even deeper beneath layers of lies. With nowhere left to turn, and the palace walls closing in tighter around her, Kate finally made her choice. Would she find the courage to speak the truth that Diana never could? On a cold, grey morning right outside Kensington Palace, Kate bravely faced the cameras. Her voice trembled and shook with emotion. Tears streamed down her face unstoppably as she revealed Diana's final secret to the entire watching world. It was a decision she had made in the dead of night after endless sleepless hours and a heavy silence that nearly crushed her spirit completely. With every single door in the palace shut firmly against her, with every ally turned away, Kate chose defiance and rebellion. She personally arranged a private press gathering, completely rejecting royal protocol, boldly defying every expectation of obedience, and disregarding every threat that had been hurled her way. At dawn, reporters and photographers gathered outside the palace gates, their whispers thick with curiosity and anticipation. They could sense that something absolutely monumental and historic was about to unfold before their eyes. When Kate finally appeared and stepped forward, an instant hush fell over the entire crowd like a blanket. She stood before the world with her head held high, her hands clutching the papers that had sparked this firestorm, and she began to speak. Her words weren't merely a confession. They were a reckoning, the culmination of Diana's pain and her own suffering combined. Kate spoke of the Princess of Wales not as a myth or distant symbol, but as a real woman, brave, deeply wounded, and cruelly silenced by the very people sworn to protect her. She praised Diana's courage to confront truths that others had feared, and the trail of clues she had deliberately left for someone strong enough to follow. And then, with trembling hands, Kate raised up the DNA evidence for everyone to see. Her voice cracked with emotion as she confirmed what the monarchy had firmly denied for decades. Diana had a hidden child, a son whose very existence proved everything she had suffered through and everything she had desperately tried to tell the world but couldn't. The cameras captured every single syllable, every tear streaking down Kate's cheeks, every pause that filled the morning air with unbearable tension. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Electric shock rippled through the gathered crowd like lightning. Gasps echoed as people struggled to grasp the enormous weight of her revelation. Within minutes, the shocking news flashed across the entire globe. Headlines screamed about betrayal, hidden heirs, and royal lies finally exposed to sunlight. Then came an overwhelming flood of support and solidarity. A rising tide of voices standing firmly with Kate, hailing her not simply as a duchess or future queen, but as the brave woman who had finally spoken the truth Diana never could. Inside the palace walls, however, complete chaos reigned. The monarchy staggered under the devastating blow. Its carefully constructed facade cracked and crumbled before the world's eyes. Centuries of tradition and concentrated power trembled under the weight of what Kate had just revealed. As the cameras flashed one last time, Kate's strength finally gave out. Her knees buckled beneath her, and she collapsed into William's waiting arms. Her tears soaked his shoulder as his own tears streamed freely down his face. In that embrace, they both knew with absolute certainty that nothing could ever be the same again. And yet, as the world desperately tried to process this revelation, one haunting question remained unanswered. What would become of Diana's hidden son? Then at last he appeared. The man whose very existence rewrote the entire royal story. He stepped into the light. What would he say to the world? As cameras rolled and history held its breath, nobody knew what to expect. After Kate's stunning confession and the resulting storm of headlines, speculation ran wild everywhere. Yet nothing could have possibly prepared anyone for the moment he took the podium. His presence was calm but commanding, as though years spent living in the shadows had forged him into someone the monarchy could no longer control or silence. The crowd fell completely silent as he adjusted the microphone. The pause stretched unbearably until he finally spoke. His words were brief but incredibly powerful, charged with the raw emotion of a man who had waited his entire life to say his mother's name with pride. He called Diana his mother without any qualifiers, without apologies, and thanked Kate for having the courage he himself had lacked for so long. He admitted that he had always known who he truly was, but had chosen silence to protect Diana's memory until this very moment. Each word landed like a hammer blow, shattering decades of carefully crafted illusion. Then came the question everyone feared, yet longed to hear. Would he claim what was rightfully his? His eyes swept across the sea of faces, his jaw set firmly. Though he never said it outright, his measured words hinted at an unsettling truth. His relationship with the crown, with his brothers, and with the entire royal order itself was far from over. Blood may have been denied, he declared, but it could never be erased. The meaning was unmistakable. Inside the palace, the reaction was swift and divided. William and Harry stood apart, their faces unreadable, while Charles's grim silence spoke volumes. Camilla's expression betrayed only cold resolve. The family, once united in unspoken rules, now stood fractured under the crushing weight of a truth too heavy to bury again. Beyond the palace gates, the public response was just as volatile. To some, he was a rightful heir reclaiming his place. To others, he symbolized everything broken within the monarchy. Calls rang out for answers, for accountability, for a reckoning. No palace statement could possibly satisfy. Yet amid the chaos, there were also tear-streaked faces of empathy, of grief, of solidarity with Diana's son, who now stood before them. The cameras caught Kate watching from the sidelines, her hand resting protectively on her stomach, as though vowing to shield her own children from the same pain. The memory of Diana lingered over them all. Her defiance and sorrow were finally vindicated. At last, her story was no longer a cautionary tale, but a revolution. And, as the palace gates closed and the cameras faded, one truth remained unshakable. The monarchy would never be the same again. So what do you think about this incredible revelation? Do you believe Diana's son deserves his place in the royal family? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because we want to hear what you think. And if this story shocked you as much as it shocked us, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another explosive royal secret. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.